And whereas Judy stands as a prime example of someone who lives a purpose-filled life, she makes this world a better place in which to live, and it is only fitting and proper that she is appropriately honored. And whereas during Women's History Month, we recognize and commend Dr. Judy Purnell on receiving the 2022 Lifetime Achievement Alumni Award from the Tuskegee University College of Arts and Sciences. Now, therefore, the Council of Columbus, Georgia hereby resolves the members of council to do hereby extend a heartfelt congratulations to Dr. Judy Purnell on her lifetime achievement. I move for its adoption.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please stand.
Thank you all very much. To the city of Columbus, it has been a lifelong journey for me, coming from segregation into integration, working hard to try to bridge cultural and racial gaps. It is a necessary requirement in meeting all of those things that were established in our U.S. Constitution. I want you all to know that I believe in the preamble. I believe that we, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union and establish justice, we must be righteous in what we believe. We must believe that all people are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, which are among those life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. I hope that in the future, we as a people, a Southern people, a people who we have to cross so many bridges to get where we are. I believe in this country. I believe in you. I believe that America can be America as it was designed to be. I am a strict constructionist. I believe in the U.S. Constitution. I believe that all of us should be respected as humans, that we should receive all of those privileges that this country has guaranteed. I thank the city of Columbus. I thank all of you. And if there's anything that I can do, even though I have reached the ripe old age, since you know the date of birth, you know that I'm 70 plus years of age. Now that I have reached my 70, I have become a truth teller. So if by chance my services are needed by you, the mayor, city council, and others, it is my desire that we come together as one people, because we are only human. Thank you very much. I want you all to know this is my family.
Dr. Purnell, do you
These are
want to
my
introduce?
daughters and my nephew and everyone. Thank you.
If you would come around, ma'am, we've got a copy of the resolution for you. All right. All right, next we go to the city attorney's agenda. Council, wait a minute, we've got Councilor House.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take a moment to remind everybody that tomorrow is Vietnam Veterans Day. So if you run into a Vietnam veteran like your father, give them a special thanks for what they went through, because they did go through a lot. That's all.
I will. Thank you. Yeah, if we have any veterans from the Vietnam War, would you stand and let us thank you a day early? Thank you, Counselor House. Outstanding. Mr. City Attorney.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We do have a short business agenda tonight. Got a zoning item we need to vote on at 2925 Manchester Expressway.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Are there any discussion related to this item? Hearing none, you can cue it. And councilors, you can register your votes, please. All right.
One more.
Yeah, Councilor Crabb is a yes. Hers is not registered.
Okay, that's approved. I think I saw Mr. Mize here earlier, but you are good to go now, Mr. Mize. The next item we've got, Mayor, is first reading of an ordinance which would add a new Article 8 to Chapter 14, limit coin-operated amusement machines to 6 machines per location, which is permitted by state law. And if there are any questions around the table?
No, doesn't appear so.
Got a hand up, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's public hearing. If you'd hit that button, Mr. Olson, so I can turn it on for you. At the microphone. Sorry. There, it's on.
Oh, is it on? Good evening. My name's Paul Olson. I live at 13830 Upatoy Lane. I'm pretty interested in this stuff because I think that we're having lots of problems at these gas stations and these convenience stores. It's called the Georgia Coin-Operated Amusement Machines. I Googled it, so I kind of know what this thing is about. Believe it or not, Georgians spend $3 billion annually on them, and Columbus being the second largest city, several $100 million in my estimate. Probably the finance director would probably have a better handle on that because of the gross receipts that they should receive from all these businesses. It's been regulated by the state law since 2013, and mayor and city councilors, you're also county commissioners. And as county commissioners, in accordance with the Georgia Constitution and the official code of Georgia, are charged with the responsibility of providing a system of local government services designed to protect the health, safety, and welfare of their citizens. And years ago, I remember the Columbus Police Department were actually raiding some of these establishments and based on multiple violations and infractions, and that stopped out of nowhere. I don't know why. In the last few years, many of these gas stations and convenience stores have had killings and gun violence. It has been a systemic problem. And why did it take you, mayor and city council, so many years and acts of violence for you to address this problem? Because honestly, it has to, I agree with you guys minimizing it, but it should have been a better oversight. You did close down that gas station across from Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church after all the violence. And what was so sad was the Mr. Purnell, who was assassinated, actually making a multi-thousands of dollars of deposited at Sonoas with basically a police precinct adjacent. So I don't know if they've ever caught the murderer, but that was just horrible. The convenience store on Floyd Road, there was a killing at a convenience store at Macon Road. And many of these convenience stores don't even have a doggone gas that they sell, and yet they still stay open. And also the shooting on Milton Road with the children, and it just goes on and on and on. What I'm interested in, who owns the business license for these machines? And they have to have a business license. And since they're such a nuisance, you would think that you guys could shut them down as mayor and city council. Also, they have ATM machines at these places where they can get cash readily available to the gamblers on these premises. And if their establishment becomes a nuisance or law, under the same ordinance we're talking about, section 14-261, our city charter license suspension and revocation penalties, you can suspend or revoke the license of any location or location operator if they sell alcohol to underage minors. And just last week alone, Chief Blackman, basically, you saw on the news, he basically arrested 5 operators that were basically, in violation of selling to underage minors. And I'm asking you, Mayor and City Council, what action did you take towards this? you know, towards these 5 establishments. And hopefully you take action, because as not just city councilors, but county commissioners, you're required by law to take action. No, and it also says, no location owner, operator may derive more than 50% of monthly gross retail receipts. And this is in your ordinance. I would like to think most of these convenience stores, minus the gas pumps, would not even meet this criteria. So what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, and city council and mayor, is that when you see these food marts or convenience stores, there's no gas pumps, as many people that come in and out of there, and the transactions and the processing fees, and just, I mean, for $300 million, and that's just a guesstimation, and I'm pretty good at guesstimating with my math, right? And then as many as you see around town, there's lots of money going out, and you got to understand that 10% of that goes to the Georgia education system for the Hope Scholarship. And since there's so many cash transactions, and you got to understand that I had a farm out in Missouri, and I read in the newspaper, in Yahoo, and you can Google it yourself, that Missouri is going after all these convenience stores and these, because basically they call it racketeering. And racketeering is basically having a business as a front and doing illegal gambling. And since I was out in Missouri, I went into the VFW, and they had those machines in there, and if there was $300 and they couldn't give them $300 in cash, they'd under the table give them $150, and you know, because instead of gifts and all this other stuff that went on, so that they got caught. So if they're doing it in Missouri, more than likely they're probably doing it here too. Otherwise, with the illegal gambling, brings crime and brings gangs, and for somebody to carry that much money and be assassinated, you know there's lots of cash, because gas, I mean, I have a business. Most transactions, I mean, 90% of it is credit cards, okay? Mayor Henderson, you are also, as a public safety director, responsible for directives to Chief Blackman to carry out. City Council, you're responsible for the funding of the police department. And in this process, there should be undercover policemen, so on and so forth. And if either you do not do your due diligence in providing that guidance and financial support, then you are guilty of incompetence, nonfeasance, and misfeasance. In accordance with the city charter, and you can be recalled. Disregard for our public safety, because, I mean, it's taken years for you guys to basically say, hey, we have a problem here, we're going to address it. So where's the ramifications and repercussions and the reprimand directed towards you? You know, you want to direct that towards another individual. And on a personal basis, and I'll leave you with this, a directive is like this. Remember, Skip, when I called you when the COVID was going on, and you had said, put out a mandate for the police who would stop people if they didn't have a purpose to go somewheres? And I called you up and I said, have you lost your mind? Skip, I said, if you don't want a second term, buddy, I said, you need to stop that mandate. He goes, well, I've already put it out there, Paul. And I said, well, you need to go back and do a retraction. And you listened to me and you did a retraction. So that's a directive. And so what I'm saying to you is that Chief Blackman, he's handicapped in so many aspects, because if he's underfunded and the money is not being utilized, such as the OLAS and 226, Resolution 226-08, and we've got $20 million of that money in a bank account of Synovus in escrow, when that should be being utilized for a higher pay raises for not just the police department, but the sheriff's department, and also all public safety. We're talking about firemen too. We're not just saying that. And these people need pay raises because they're out there endangering their lives. I'd hate to go to domestic disturbances like that. At least when I was in combat, I knew where the enemy was. They don't get that privilege when they go out there. So I tip my hat to them. I'm glad that you actually are addressing this situation as you are, but that's all I have to say. God bless you. Okay?
Well, thank you. Anybody else want to speak to this issue? Looks like that's
Okay,
it.
we will bring this back in the April regular meeting for a vote. The next item up is housekeeping and personnel section of the Columbus Code. Has to do with promotions, demotions, and transfers pertaining to probationary employees and repealing conflicting provisions. Ms. Hollowell, HR Director, is here. We'll call her over, and I think she wants to hit some highlights of this proposal, and we'll see if there are any questions.
No questions from council.
Go ahead, Ms. Hollowell, if you
Sure.
are ready to speak, and then we'll see if council has any questions afterwards.
Good evening, everyone. Chapter 16B in the Columbus Codes are the codified personnel regulations. Article 3 relates to the pay plan, and Article 7 relates to promotions, transfers, and demotions. Working with the Assistant City Attorney, we've been cleaning up these particular sections, doing some house cleaning, so that an old pay plan ordinance does not conflict with what council has adopted in the new pay plan. With the adoption of the new pay plan, council has already approved the promotions and demotions ordinance. Today, I am requesting your approval of the transfer ordinance. With your approval, the promotions, demotions, and transfer ordinances will be in sync, as they do go hand in hand, and they tend to move together for administrative purposes. At a very, very high level here, I wanted to share just a little bit about the transfer ordinance that we're requesting your approval, specifically the interdepartmental transfer ordinance. We have included in this update definitions for promotions, demotions, and transfers, and specific to the internal department transfers. When an employee is transferring from one department to another department at a higher grade or higher pay grade, the employee advances 6 steps in their current grade, and then they're slotted into the new grade, or they're placed at step 1 of the new grade, whichever is higher, and this applies to public safety and general government. When an employee transfers from one general government department to another general government department and the pay grade is the same or lower, they will start at the entry level of that position, but may be given credit for their years of service with the city up to 6 steps in grade. When an employee transfers from one public safety department to another public safety department and the pay grade is the same or lower, the employee will start at entry level of the new position, and they may be given credit for their years of service with the city up to six steps. The last small section, section 16B, section 8, pertains to the probationary period, and it states that employees are not eligible to transfer or be promoted to another department until they have completed or satisfied their probationary period. And those are the highlights of that transfer ordinance that we're requesting that you approve.
All right. Got questions around the table?
Yeah, Councilor Thomas?
Ms. Hollowell, currently, without this resolution, what happens when someone moves from one department to another? How is that handled? How does this change what is currently happening in our promotions and transfers?
Sure. This particular section related to transfers was satisfied in the old ordinance. In the UGA pay plan, there was direction there in terms of how someone transferred from one department to another. However, because we have moved to a new pay plan and we've changed the promotions and demotions ordinance, the transfer does not work any longer. It doesn't work. So that's why we need an updated or adjusted. We need something that clarifies how you actually transfer, because it was more clear in the UGA pay plan, but because we changed the promotions and demotions ordinance, the transfer ordinance doesn't work anymore, so we need to change it.
So if I were working in a general government department and I wanted to transfer to another general government department. Tell me how this affects that.
In the new ordinance, if you are in a general government, the proposed ordinance, if you're in a general government department and you want to transfer to another general government department, it depends. If it's a pay grade higher than where you are, if it's a pay grade higher than your current grade, then you will move to that department. You will advance 6 steps in that department. If you are transferring and it's either the same pay grade or lower, you'll transfer to that department, but you'll start at the entry level, step 1. However, you will be given credit for your years of service up to 6 steps, depending on how many years of service you have with the city.
And if I were in a public safety department and transferred to another public safety department, same thing?
Very much similar, the same thing. If you are transferring from one public safety department to another public safety department, and it is a promotion, meaning that it's a higher grade than where you're leaving, you will advance 6 steps. If you are transferring to from one public safety department to another, and it is the same pay grade or lower, you start at entry level, but you're given credit for your years of service up to 6 steps.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Davis.
So how does the intergovernment transfer apply to a general government or public safety, which I'm just going to put that under general government, over to a constitutional officer's office or department?
It doesn't.
Does it apply to the criteria that you're spelling out to us? Does it apply to them?
It does. The policies in the personnel regs does not distinguish between whether an office is a constitutional office or not. It applies across the board to all departments and offices.
So those policies, do they currently apply now?
They do.
And I'll tell you, we've always been under the impression that the council, we approve budgets, okay? That's one of our primary responsibilities. But when it comes to a constitutional officer, we're really approving a number that they give us, but we do not have any line items that we can manage or approve, which is different from general government or public safety that I would put under general government category. The constitutional officer can make adjustments within their budget. In other words, they are in complete control of managing that full number that we give them. And they are the sole responsible party in doing that. So how is that, if that policy applies today, I'm not under the understanding that that's what is happening from a control. Who controls the department makes the decisions.
Well, I'll say this. I see the city manager wants to share too. I'll say this. What it sounds to me like, Councilor Davis, you're referring to a department's budget or an office's budget. And that's one thing, but the personnel rules and regulations are something different. And I'm not referring to how a constitutional officer or a department manages its budget. I'm specifically speaking to the personnel rules and regulations that apply across the board.
Okay.
Mayor and Councilor Davis, to your question, of course, I think the HR director has explained the law. When you approve ordinance, it becomes law. But we do know with constitutional officers, they often tell us, the director, I am not going to try and tell the constitutional officer that I'm going to tell them what the law is. And then if they choose to do something different, I've said to them, if I were to use an example, it would be if you've got a department with $3 million in salaries and wages, and a constitutional officer chooses to do something different that's out of line with what the law says because I'm a constitutional officer, what I'm going to be looking at when your budget comes through is we approved you $3 million for salaries and wages. And if, because you didn't follow the law that we have, I couldn't tell you what to do, but if your salaries and wages come in now at $3,300,000, we're going to approve $3 million for you. And then the constitutional officer has to decide what he or she is going to do about it. And so I don't know if that gets to your question, but we hold general government departments to the law. We cannot, if a constitutional officer chooses not to follow that, I mean, there's nothing we can do because you approve the budget. And you approve, and if they are not exceeding the bottom line this year because they're doing it, but if they come in with a new budget that creates an increase, then there's going to be a problem.
Well, I do understand it that way.